Greetings, folks. Nice to see you again. My name is Dustin Cormier. Welcome to How to Rock Astrology. Today we're continuing our reading of Light on Life, an introduction to the Astrology of India by Robert Svodoba and Hart to Fouw. We just hacked into the first half of Chapter 2 in our last video. Now we're going to be getting into the second part of Chapter 2. First, talking about our next chapter subheading, which is Karma and Jyotish. How does karma play a role in everything that Jyotish is as the metaphysical firmament of reality? What role does karma play? It's ironic that karma is both our greatest challenge and yet our ultimate reward. The impetus for our reward. It's our karma that gives our dharma meaning, and it is the boulder which Sisyphus has to throw down and lift up again, only to let it roll down again. And the karma may seem meaningless, but the dharma is significant within. So you'd better have a boulder to roll. And that's what we're going to be getting into now in this chapter. So, karma and Jyotish. Since the Srimad Bhagavata teaches that all states of mind in which the feeling of me and mine is present are the results of permutations and combinations of the three gunas, which we talked about in our last episode. Then, in order to know manas, the mind, and the internal nature, we must know the three gunas, because we are constituted by them. Sattva is the natural state of the conscious mind, and rajas and tamas are the two ways in which the mind can go out of balance, but sattva is the essential root of pure awareness and consciousness. Although these three gunas can theoretically exist as pure sattva, rajas, or tamas, in our world, all created things are innately composed of combinations of all three, just as all matter is a combination of all five great elements, with one or two predominating at a time. The 9 states of relative imbalance, which thus originate from the pure permutations of sattva, rajas, and tamas, is one more reason why 9 planets suffice to describe all of human nature and experience. In each human life, the specific proportions of the 3 gunas determine, via the 9 planets, that individual's aptitude for the various possible actions which a living human can perform. Though the law of karma is simply stated, reap, it is no simplistic tit-for-tat theory, nor is it an arbitrary human creation. The law of karma is another name for Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. As such, it is inherent in the universe's structure. The doctrine of karman and phala, act and fruit, is less a product of man's sense of justice, that one shall be punished for what one has done, than it is a necessary consequence of the doctrine of the inherent efficacy of the acts. It's a quote from Van Buitenen, page 35. Everything does not happen all at once in our world, thanks to the inherent limitations of time, space, and causation. A tree and the seed from which it sprang cannot exist simultaneously. the former must develop from the latter. Events occur in our universe according to a sequence which is scheduled by the law of karma on the great calendar known as Kala, time. As soon as Prakriti separates from Purusha, the law of karma begins to operate, for everything that happens thereafter is ultimately due to that first act. Each action inexorably causes some effect, and each effect causes further effects, like ripples spreading from a rock pitched into a pool. As a myriad of actions accumulate, the cascade of effects becomes exceedingly intricate and perplexing, embroiling us in extended matrices of cause and effect, which bind us in the world together into a vast self-regulating system. As Mahatma Gandhi is reported to have said, after inventing the law of karma, God was able to retire. Oh, that's really psychedelic. That's awesome. In living individual beings, the law of karma acts primarily at the level of ahamkara. Humans, who have much more self-awareness than do animals or plants, have a proportionately greater ability to self-identify with their actions. They thus sow more than they do other sentient beings, and more do they reap. The beauty of what I'm saying is the optimistic awareness of what karma is. What humans sow and reap depends on the relative balance of the three gunas in their personalities. The plucky, optimistic Leo rising Sagittarius moon in me is just, yes, let me be a human. Let me play the high stakes poker. Even if I lose, at least I got to that high stakes poker. And that's easy to say when you've been put into a easy incarnation. But I suppose if it's a hard incarnation, you might be wishing that the gunas were not a thing. In this incarnation, I'm pushing it for it. Because what humans sow and reap depends on the balance of the three gunas in their personalities. Now, when sattva predominates, a person performs altruistic karmas unattached to their results, while a predomination of rajas causes one to act from passion, blinded by desires. Those who act without thinking act from a predominance of tamas. Only those whose minds are fixed solely on the absolute remain untouched by the three gunas. That's some Srimad Bhagavatam consciousness. Now, karmas are divided into 4 categories, and this is the fun, very psychedelic part of the book that I've been excited to expound on. So, the 4 categories or divisions or derivations of karma are Sanchita. It's a collection of all karmas, a sort of abstract, surreal, oceanic underbelly. Prarabdha karmas. It's the ones that are ready to be experienced. Kriyamana karmas are current karmas. And Agama are approaching karmas. Classification of any action into one class of karma or another is not always easy, because the cause and effect relationship is essentially an inseparable unit. While the partitioning of an indivisible whole into fictitious parts makes that whole easier to comprehend, all 4 types of karmas ultimately overlap one another. There is not much boundary going on. In the same way that there isn't really a spring, summer, fall, or winter. It's just January 24th, January 25th, January 26th, January 27th. By the time you get to February 15th, the weather has certainly become different in the towards the archetype of spring, but not completely. Everyone will be different, and the adjustment period will never, there's never a time when the sun comes out and officially, authentically states, all right, everybody, this is when I've decided that it's going to be spring. It just happens with no boundary. It's the same way with these karmas. And these types of karma, these densities of karma. Now, the first density of karma, if that's the right word to use, is Sanchita karma. Sanchita means heaped together. So, Sanchita, or heaped together karma, is the sum total of all past actions, known and unknown, that a being has performed, and that are saved in his or her karmic account. Known karma is karma you are aware of having performed, while unknown karma is karma you are not conscious of having done. This unknown karma is a sort of cause and effect relationship, which is not easily known by the finite mind. The complexity of this unknown karma is exponentially increased when the notion of the transmigration of souls, commonly called reincarnation, is factored into the karmic equation. Things become very slippery in the world of metaphysics. Reincarnation assumes that actions performed in previous lives may well be the causes of effects experienced in this lifetime. Although it is not enunciated very clearly in the Vedas themselves, the doctrine of reincarnation has been an integral part of almost all of Indian philosophy since Vedic times. The Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God, one of India's most famous and best-loved scriptures, is the one I keep talking about that I was deeply affected by, neatly expresses this idea in an analogy. Just as a person casts off the worn-out clothes and puts on others that are new, even so does the embodied soul cast off worn-out bodies and take on others that are new. It's from chapter 2, verse 22 of the Bhagavad Gita. A woman who wonders why she found it so easy to earn her law degree, so difficult to find a husband, so easy to relate to her parents, and so difficult to have children, wonders about these things because she has forgotten the karmas which she performed in her previous lives. It is those past karmas which cause some of her present circumstances, good or bad, to seem disproportionate to the effects expected from known causes in this lifetime. And, since every action has a result that the performer of the original action must also experience, all the actions which she performs during this life will produce their own reactions, and any anticipated results that she has not yet experienced at the time of her death will inevitably be enjoyed in a future incarnation. If you do not believe in reincarnation, you may assume that previous actions in this lifetime, including intrauterine influences and formative experiences in infancy, were the forgotten karmas which surface, for better or worse, later in life. Ancestral genealogies are another question. You know, maybe one of your ancestors did something, had an action that somehow comes through you, even though it wasn't the same soul in the sense that we're talking about reincarnation-wise. Maybe some of that biological genetic memory tissue still remains in your physical body. Again, metaphysics is slippery. Or at least the physical manifestation of metaphysics is slippery. Now, we've just talked about Sanchita Karma. Right? There's our Sanchita Karma. Now we're going to talk in our next part about there we go. Prarabdha Karma. It's the next type of karma. Prarabdha Karma. That portion of Sanchita Karma which is ready to be experienced by an individual during his or her lifetime represents the current effect of past actions which appear as fate or destiny. So Prarabdha Karma is a portion of Sanchita Karma. It's that portion which is ready to be experienced by an individual during this lifetime. So, a woman who is simultaneously a daughter, a wife, a mother, and a lawyer does not at any particular moment simultaneously experience all the results of the previous actions which created these roles. She is instead predominantly a daughter only when she's with her parents. She's only a wife when she's with her husband. She's only a mother when she's with her children. And she's only a lawyer in her professional life alone. Similarly, an entity does not experience all of its Sanchita Karma at once. Only that portion which has become ripe for experiencing will surface at any one time. Good stuff. Super psychedelic. Now, that was a little image of Prarabdha Karma. The next stage in karmic readiness is Kriyamana Karma. Kriyamana Karmas consist of the total potential effect created by current actions. People are not mere puppets, mechanically manipulated by the effects of their past actions. We can, by exerting our will, create new actions in the present. Sanchita and Prarabdha Karmas are, in a sense, destined or fated because they are the product of past actions which have matured. Our Kriyamana Karma is what we do at any moment with our capacity to will and to create. Essentially, Kriyamana Karma is our free will. So, for example, a congenital condition which prevents our lawyer from having children may be said to be due to Prarabdha Karma, or destiny, a ripe effect ready to be experienced. This is also a matter of Sanchita Karma, the longer-term version of fate, for the congenital deficiency was a part of the overall results to be experienced eventually that became ripe for experiencing now. If corrective surgery is possible for this condition, and if, at a particular moment in adult life, the woman chooses to undergo surgery, that decision may occur thanks to her Kriyamana Karma, the ability to apply intelligence in the physical world now in order to deal somehow, positively or not, with the reality of one's past actions and Prarabdha and Sanchita Karmas that are now becoming ripe. Now, the fourth type of karma in this little schema is Agama Karma. Come on, you bugger. Whatever. My camera's weird, but number 4 on our list of types of karma, the ripest, the most present, is the Agama Karma. Agama karmas, new actions that you contemplate as a result of insight, represent your capacity to envision future actions, whether or not you choose to implement them. So, speaking to our above example, Agama karmas are being performed once the lawyer dreams of or plans for surgical correction of her infertility. It is said that for success, you must plan your work and work your plan. The former is an Agama karma. The latter is a Kriyamana karma. Wonderful. Now from here, we are going to talk a little bit about karmic intricacies. And there's 3 different states of karma that are spoken to here that are, again, very cool, psychedelic, and important. So real, viscerally embellished exposition on what karma is and our place in the evolving and transmuting of ill past karmas towards prospective, constructive karma and positive Agama karmas in the future. The way that the dialogue is built up here is wonderful. So, as we can see, this next chapter subheading is called Karmic Intricacies. Come on, get there. Anyway, you can see it. Karmic Intricacies. Jyotishis attempt in their analyses to interpret the varieties and intensities of a person's karmas in particular domains of life. Sanchita karmas are assumed to form a constant karmic background that is not totally comprehensible by ordinary means, Jyotish included. It is Sanchita karma that prompts Indians to claim that the ways of karma are unfathomable. Prarabdha, Kriyamana, and Agama karmas are, however, knowable through Jyotish. Jyotish assumes that the human condition always arises from a dynamic interaction between fate and free will. Fate is fundamentally an expression of the Sanchita and Prarabdha karmas, and free will, the result of free will is the result of Kriyamana and Agama karmas. Agama and Kriyamana karmas eternally evolve into Sanchita and Prarabdha karmas, which with the passage of time, and eventually Agama and Kriyamana karmas again eternally evolve into Sanchita and Prarabdha, the axle that turns the great wheel of karma, right? So starts off being Agama and Kriyamana and Agama, and a great amount of action is put in there, and it's buried deep into the Sanchita and Prarabdha karmas, which eventually surface again in the next life, like shaking a bowl of milk. What was done by free will yesterday, or what was done by free will today, acts as the cause of what is experienced as fate tomorrow. Though no one is ruled by fate alone, it may seem so until true free will emerges. Only when free will emerges can the quantity and quality of effort invested in modifying a situation equal or exceed the quantity and quality of effort that created the situation. Only then can transformation, as opposed to simple change in life, be achieved. Constructive, self-realized change and transformation. In other words, transformation can only occur when the Agama and Kriyamana karmas neutralize the Sanchita and its currently materializing Prarabdha karmas. The quantity and quality of effort required to alter previous karmas depends on the intensity of the Prarabdha karmas. Intensity of the Prarabdha karma. There's a cool Indian story, just the classic thing about the guru looking around for a ripe coconut. The guru walks around and they see a whole, 100, 50 people out in the street who are just, having difficulties, having lives, and the guru is an enlightened being who can speak and help any of them. But he doesn't help all of them because he's only got so much time. He's like a celebrity, and he's only going to give so much of his time to certain people. And people can say, oh, well, this guru is such a favorite, he picks favorites, and there's favoritism because he only goes for certain people. But the guru knows, as the old saying goes, that you don't waste your time with an unripe coconut. It exerts so much force, so much action. Whereas if there's a ripe coconut somewhere around that's no longer green, it's become brown and ready ripe to be opened up, then all the guru has to do is find them, see the past life connection between them, and just go, and it opens up in itself with way less effort for way more reward, right? Because that person's Kriyamana and Agama karmas are ripe and ready to be experienced and transmuted. Otherwise, if the Prarabdha karma has not opened up to that, then you're just presenting your pearls before swine in that situation, as the old biblical phrase goes. Now, the 3 degrees of karmic intensity with which may one the 3 degrees of karmic intensity which may apply to one, many, or all areas of a person's life are the following 3. It's Dhrida, fixed karmas. Dhrida, adhrida, it's fixed, non-fixed karma. And adhrida, non-fixed karma. So if you understand really what's being built up here, essentially dhrida means fixed. And when you add a to anything, in the same way in English, we use the word sexual to describe someone who's sexual, and then we say asexual to mean that they're not sexual. In the same way, dhrida karmas are fixed karmas, and adhrida karmas are unfixed, transmutable. It's the dhrida, the fixed karmas, that are tough to maneuver. And in between these two, they could have made another word, but sometimes Sanskrit just does this, is where they put the 2 extreme words together, and it implies the balance, or the in between the 2 extremes. So dhrida, adhrida karmas are karmas that are not necessarily too fixed, but also they're not going to be easy to transmute and open up. But they can be. So, first let's talk a little bit about Dhrida karma. Dhrida karmas give fixed results because they are so difficult to change that they are practically non-changeable. These karmas, pleasurable or painful, are destined to be experienced because of the intensity of their causes. Most people have noticed that from time to time, an experience simply happens, despite all efforts to avoid its occurrence. If, for example, a pregnant woman who has enjoyed perfect health before and during her pregnancy, and who has had the best of medical care, delivers a child with a congenital deformity, a Jyotishi might well find that she was experiencing Dhrida Prarabdha Karma concerning children, and that her child was experiencing Dhrida Prarabdha Karma concerning its body. Remember that this kind of karma may be pleasurable as well as painful. As we all know, those who seem the least deserving are often those who get ahead in life. very psychedelic pathways to understanding our own suffering in the context of evolution happening here. Dridha karmas appear in a horoscope where confluence exists. Confluence, it's a very important word to guys like Victor Carr and Ryan Kirksack. When you get to the high end of astrology, there's so many different ways to calculate a horoscope, and you got to integrate them all and find where a certain themes, certain numerologies, certain experiences are hit on in many different ways and many different angles, but it's the same theme. These are the ones where confluence exists. Confluence occurs wherever many astrological factors converge in their indications. The greater the number of indications for good or bad in a particular area of a horoscope, the more obvious its results are bound to become and bound to predict. Only when several indications in the horoscope of a pregnant woman concurrently suggest deformity to her child may we conclude that she possesses Dridha Prarabdha Karma concerning children. Although confluence is a particularly important interpretive principle, Jyotish's traditional texts mention it almost just in passing, for they rely on the teacher's expert commentary to transmit this notion of confluence to the student. Thankfully, today's astrologers and teachers are often well equipped to do that if they're looking at if they've had the Jyotir Vidya, which I would say some have. I mean, that's my own, I guess I could kind of digress on that. And I should probably just keep rolling with the text instead of saying my favorites in the YouTube world. So, that was Dridha Karma. Fixed karmas. Now, there's the fixed ones, and then there's the ones that are somewhat mutable. And that's what we call Dridha Adridha Karma. Dridha Adridha Karma occurs wherever some, but not most, horoscopic factors relating to a particular area converge in their indications. Some, but not most. These karmas, good or bad, can be changed through the concentrated application of creative will. Through considerable effort is required in order to change these kinds of karmas. Karmas can be a tricky, fickle bitch, and old habits die hard, as they say. Dridha Adridha karmas give fixed or non-fixed results according to the quantum of effort employed. Good word. If the congenital deformity in the child mentioned above is corrected or substantially alleviated through surgery, prolonged diet, intensive exercise, or some other type of corrective, then its Prarabdha Karma was of the Dridha Adridha variety, in the middle, mutable. Still got some of the inevitable effects, but those effects could be altered. If your father leaves you his hard-earned money at the end of his life, and you determinedly squander it, this would also be a case of Dridha Adridha Karma being changed by assiduous application of free will for the worse, right? And then finally, we have Adridha Karma. Adridha karmas are said to give non-fixed results because they are easily altered. Wherever there's no confluence existing in a horoscope, or not, there's like a signification of something that doesn't ring anywhere else in the chart. This state is akin to having a clean slate on which you may write what you please. When a child of normal physique exercises and her body responds with increased strength so that the gain is directly proportionate to the effort made, and no unforeseen hindrances or unanticipated variances occur. It is a case of Adridha Prarabdha Karma, in the area of her physique and her physical body and muscular and physiological health. Those are the different types of karma and how they are generally applied in this threaded through example of the woman with a congenital deformity and the implications of that on her child. There's a lot to digest there. This is already a half-an-hour video, so I think we're going to conclude here for now, folks. Stay tuned for the next episode. It's just going to be a short one, talking about remedies and the consciousness of how to deal with and apply. And essentially, in our next chapter, we're going to have a brief consideration of what karma is again, but how, more importantly, how to apply remedy, the consciousness of a remedy, of some kind of healing tactic to these Prarabdha karmas, whether they are Dhrida, Adhrida, or just Adhrida. In any case, there is always a way to deal with the fixed nature of karmas to a certain extent. We're going to find out more in the next episode, folks. For now, I'm Dustin Cormier for How to Rock Astrology. I really hope you guys are enjoying this reading. Stay posted and keep me posted on what you think, and I'll be seeing you guys on the next episode. And we're going to continue our journey into the eye of the Veda, that is Jyotish. Thanks for watching.